Hello and welcome. Today I wanted to talk to you about backups because cybercrime is growing. It's not a question of if you're going to get hacked, it's when. But also there's multiple other reasons why you should have multiple backups for your computers. Now, when I'm talking mainly around backup, we're talking from a business perspective where you've maybe got a bulk load of data that multiple people access, and then you may also have data that's on an individual machine or somewhere else on the cloud, for example. Whether you're using Microsoft 365, maybe G Suite, any of those, you need to make sure that you've got backups. But if we look, I thought this was a nice and easy way of explaining it. So these are the main reasons why you need backup, and these are going to be the issues that you're going to come across. So the first one, we talk about hardware failure. So that's your computer dies. If you've got something on it that you don't want to lose or it's not somewhere else, what happens? The next one is theft. This is physically if the hardware gets stolen. Then it's fire and flood. And the last one is if you get a cyber breach and it's ransomware. So someone then holds your data to ransom. The way that works is they will get into one of your devices, they'll encrypt it, but the encryption then runs like wildfire across all of your devices. So that is the nasty one that no one wants. But how do we protect? And this is where you have to have multiple layers, because there's not a correct exact backup that will cover for everything necessarily. So hardware failure. Now there are things like Intune, for example, that if you've got a Microsoft Premium license, or you can actually buy it separately, it's only a couple of pounds a month as an addition, you can actually back up and mimic the device, which means that then if the device dies or you want to replace the device, it's quite easy for replicating that. But if, for example, you've got main machine or you've got multiple machines within the business and people are saving and storing things on the devices, if any of those get lost or stolen, what will happen? The other thing with devices is the data encrypted? An example could be that you've got a salesperson that is on a train, which means that they're at higher risk. Trains, they use external Wi-Fi, so they might use public internet at cafes. They are at a much higher risk of their machines either getting broken, because they might drop them, they might fall off of a table or anything like that, or potentially getting stolen. Now, if that happens, is it covered? Will you lose data on there? Will you lose client data, confidential data? These are all the things that, whether it's that is in losing it or whether it's stolen. So this one here, and then we need to make sure that we are encrypting the devices so that if they get stolen and it falls into the wrong hands, they can't access anything. So one side is encryption, and also if you're backing up with hard drives, are they encrypted so that if someone steals the hard drive, then no one can access that? But let's look at the different types of backups. So first of all, if you've got an on-site server, an on-site hardware, then you need to understand if the hardware fails, you can use that on-site pretty quick. Great, that's exactly what you do. However, if someone breaks in to your premises and steals the hardware and the hard drive, and you've got a hard drive connected to it, so they're going to steal your server and the backup, do you then have a second backup that's in the cloud or off-site so that you can get back up and running? So you've got these theft, physical theft, and then you've got fire and flood. So as in, if there's a fire and your entire unit burns down, do you have a separate backup somewhere in the cloud or off-site? Stolen. Is it stolen physically, or does someone, a cybercriminal, hack into your network and actually steal your data that way? Or then with the encryption. Now this is the horrible one. Often with backups, if it's a real-time backup or it's backing up every 30 minutes, every hour, 2 hours, depending on what backup you've got, if you get an encryption virus on the hardware and the backup is connected to it, then the backup will get encrypted as well. So you might end up with all of your data encrypted, including the backup. So this is where you need to make sure that you've got the first backup that you would use to get back up and running quickly. That's normally the one that could be on premise. Then the second backup needs to be a disconnected backup that is in the cloud somewhere, or just that you can physically take the thing away. It doesn't really make a difference, they're both as good as each other, but you just need to understand which area they're covering, because usually a backup will cover 2 or 3 of these areas, not all of the areas. And then the other side to it is then understanding the time. Now this is one that you really need to make sure that you've got in your disaster recovery plan, because if you've got all of your data stored in the cloud somewhere, how long is it going to take to get that data back down before you can start working again? Now you might argue, well, if we've just had a huge fire, we can't do a lot anyway, and actually getting the data back down within 2 days is okay. Whereas if it's a hardware failure, how long is it going to take to get back up and running again once you've either fixed the hardware or replaced it? Or is there a chance that you can actually have a temporary fix in the middle? These are all various questions that they're all different answers depending on what your network is. Is your network an on-site server? Is it a hosted server on a private cloud? Is it in the Microsoft environment? It all depends, and this is where you really need to be speaking with an IT professional, where they can just break down the 4 different risks to you and your business, and then does your backup recovery plan cover for each of these, and is the time frame acceptable? Depending on what industry you're in, if you don't necessarily need technology to do in your business, then potentially the time frame is less. Whereas if you absolutely have to have technology working and available for you to earn any kind of income from the business, then this time frame needs to be a lot smaller. The other thing you then need to look at is reputational damage. So how fast you need to get back up and running again, and this is where you can then have an absolute failover. So, but speak with your IT professional about this. If you're unsure, maybe you're dealing with a smaller IT company that can't necessarily help, or you just want to have a second opinion, someone to go through it, then Syn-Star can help. So if you comment in the comments below data backup, then we'll be in touch and we can go through and we can give you a 100% free audit.